Speaking of trance, how many people here are starting to feel a little woozy and not entirely with it? Excellent, you're in the right place. Recall, and this is a promise I will remind you of repeatedly over the next few days. Recall, I did promise you this morning that at some point over the next 3 or 4 days, you will totally lose the plot. You will have no idea what's going on, where you are, maybe even who you are. Would that be fair to say? Are some people here starting to sense that's already beginning to happen for them? Okay? This is about right. This is the slow trickling point. By this evening, we'll have a lot more companions to join you. And by tomorrow, it just gets real bad. Realize that virtually every single person in this room will go through that at some point. It's normal, it's natural. If you have any concerns, feel free to talk to me or one of the assistants, and we'll do this. But you're in a good place. Okay, folks, who had fun this morning? Anyone? You feel like you've been learning some stuff?
Yes.
Who did an induction before lunch? Good, excellent. That's what we like to see. Hypnosis is a performance art, amongst other things, which means you have to do it to get good at it. It's good to understand things. It's good to, think about certain bits and pieces. But here is not the place to be thinking about them. You think about them tonight when you're at home, at the end of the week when you reflect back on your experiences. The best thing you can do in here is understand enough to do the next exercise, and then do it, and do it, and do it again. Does that make sense? The more experience you guys can get into or under your belt, the better. And let's face it, where else are you going to get a room where there's 159 other people eager to be your hypnotic victims? Subject. Right? It doesn't really happen normally. So you may as well take advantage of this opportunity. Would you like me to tell you what historically, in terms of when we've done this seminar before, who historically has done the absolute best? The ones who've written the real high rises, the shining stars. Would you like to know what they did differently to everyone else? In the evenings, when everyone else left, they met up with 1 or 2 other people and carried on training out in the corridors of the hotel lobbies. Some went to the restaurant and carried on doing it with that. They had such a good time, they ended up hypnotizing half the staff until the manager came out and asked them to stop it. And of course, 2 hours later, the manager gets released too. They came in an hour, half an hour early, waiting outside for anyone who was there, and then they asked very politely, do you want to do some practice? And people would go, but don't worry, I'll do the trance, you just enjoy it. And people would go, sure, fine. Just by doing that, they got so much more experience. They didn't get any more knowledge. The know-how was the same, the training sessions are identical. But they got so much more experience that they got more out of the know-how because they understood it better, because there was more experience to refer back to. Does that make sense to you guys? How many of you here are retaking this course, have taken this course once before? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a fair number, right? Let me ask you guys this. Are you seeing things now that you were totally oblivious to the first time that you did the course? Would that be fair to say? Yes? And we haven't even got into the big stuff yet. We're just still doing the wind-up routines, the warm-up routines, right? The more experience you get, the more connections your brain and your mind is making. The more connections you have, the more, shall we say, building blocks you have to make sense of all of this, which means you'll be understanding more of the things in a deeper way, better than everyone else does. Whether or not you do that, that's your choice. But I will lay out to you what the path is to get the most out of this. Now, I will also let you know what is a tendency to happen. At least half the people in this room will experience this at some point. The day will finish, you'll feel great, I've done some good work. And it's like, yeah, I'll just have a cold beer or a sandwich, go to bed, watch some TV, CSI, whatever you watch, and that'll be it. If you can just say, you know what, I don't really feel like it right now, but I'll just spend an extra 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes, that's not much to do, is it? I'll spend an extra 10 minutes to do it on my own. That 10 minutes is probably going to be worth more to you than all the exercise you've done in here. Would you like to know why? Because you're deciding to do it now. You're stretching your own mind. You've taken responsibility. Right now, it's my responsibility. I say stand up, you'll stand up because you paid your money, right? It'd be kind of a waste if you wouldn't do it, right? If I ask you to do an exercise, you'll jump in. You may feel a little bit like that, but then there's the whole peer pressure to dive in. You do it. You feel great afterwards. And wouldn't that be fair to say you did an exercise? You felt a little bit nervous ahead of time. You did it, and you felt great afterwards. Would you say that you've all experienced that at some point? Yes? There is no difference between it in here or out there. And there's no difference between doing it out there in the evenings and actually starting your practice and having the same kind of inhibition about seeing an actual live client. The process is the same. In here, I can guide you through that. But if you choose to guide yourself through that, it means there's nothing, there's no brakes left on you. Because when you go home, it's a habit. You realize like, oh, I feel a bit like, great, that's where I need to be. That's how you begin. And then it becomes easy again. Does that kind of make sense to you guys? So I'm not going to sit here, I'm not going to preach to you about how much you should do or shouldn't do. I'll leave it up to you. But if you really are committed to being great at hypnosis, then spend a little more time on your own today, in the evenings, maybe tomorrow morning when you come back and so on, and do stuff. Rest assured you'll have plenty of stuff to do with people by the time you get to it. Okay? But you need to take responsibility of your learning to take it outside of this room so it's in the rest of the world. And even if it's just doing a quick instant induction on the top of the deck or in the parking lot, it's not in here, and that's why it's worth more. Make sense? Okay. Anyone have a need to do something? So we've gone through our power words, right? Just as a quick experiment, what were the power words? What's the first one? Then, and, then, and. Okay, about 3 of you got that one. That's good. It's useful because you can get some more, right? It's useful to drill yourself to make it very fluent with just those 5, not because there's any magic in those particular 5, but because it's a base. And then adding another one is not easy, is not difficult. It's just a 6th one. Adding another 2, well, you get 7, 8. Before you know it, you're on up 10, 15, 20. By the time you have 30, they'll be easier to do than the 5 you have right now. At some point, you'll have so many, you won't need to grasp for words anymore because they'll always be there for you, right? So really drill these things in. Did you enjoy doing the exercise earlier on with it? Right? We'd like a little more